would be excited that she had met a prince. She ran to go get her Fun Saver camera so she could capture the memory, which to me just reminds you just how young Virginia Giuffre was when this abuse was happening. When you heard the news, the sort of first step toward accountability coming out of the UK, what came to mind for you?
Even though Andrew was not arrested in the UK on sex trafficking charges, I think that it brings light to what we know as survivors and what people are starting to realize in our country is that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in a really large crime organization, for lack of a better term. He was someone who brokered in relationships, and he used those relationships in a multitude of different ways for his own enrichment. And so we're seeing now with the arrest of Andrew that Epstein's crimes potentially go a lot further than just a sex trafficking ring.
You know, Liz, it's been, I think when people woke up to the arrest of Andrew, there was this sort of shock that kind of went through the system, both in the UK and here in the US, because, oh my goodness, someone's actually pursuing the process. And you make a very important point. Although the arrest was not based on sexual trafficking or any other abuse of a minor, the fact that they did bring him in on charges of which these activities are going to be a part of that conversation. So it was very interesting listening to Ms. Giuffre's brother last night on our colleague Jen Psaki's program. Let's take a quick listen to Sky Roberts, because I think at the end of what he says, I think he summed up for a lot of us exactly what that moment meant, but also then what came next or comes next.
It's even though he's getting arrested on charges that may not be affiliated directly with the sexual allegations that my sister had brought against him, it's still a form of justice. Mm-hmm. These are the things that our survivors are waiting for, and we have to give survivors, my sister, the day here, and give them that win, because they come so few. They really do. And so we felt, I can tell you, I felt a lot of emotion, Jen. Happy, sad, mad, angry, now motivated. So we're going to keep going because there's so much more to do.
It's still a form of justice, but we're motivated and we're going to keep going. Do you align yourself with that?
Absolutely. I think that this is a good start, but it's just a start. And we need to see this kind of accountability start to happen in the United States. We're looking at the UK, we're looking at Norway, we're looking at countries in Europe holding people accountable. For us in the United States, I think that maybe it's easy to kind of just look at this and say, well, Andrew was arrested. This is the first time that a member of the royal family has been arrested since the 1600s. This is monumental. It's like it's a crisis of identity right now in the UK. And to not see the United States following suit, at least yet, is beyond disappointing. And I really hope that we start to see a different response from our Department of Justice. But I don't know how confident we are in that.
Liz, not only has there been a lack of accountability, but there has also just been flat-out character assassinations of a lot of the survivors. And I really commend you and thank you for continuing to speak out and for coming on tonight, because it's so important. But when you have people who are potential co-conspirators, people who are mentioned throughout the hundreds and thousands of correspondences that have been released by the Justice Department and the Epstein files so far, now making really challenging to believe and swallow denials of knowing victims, being acquainted with them, from Prince Andrew to Les Wexner, who in Ohio this week during a deposition with House Democrats and Republican staffers also feigned ignorance of what Epstein was doing. I wonder if you feel like it's productive for these depositions and these transcribed interviews to continue to happen in public without there being some sort of more salient or targeted endgame here, like a referral by Congress to the Justice Department? Do you feel like Congress has maybe misfired in their approach here in how they're handling the release of the Epstein files?
I think that what survivors are feeling right now is we keep giving people who are potentially co-conspirators, people who are potentially involved in these crimes, we keep giving them a chance to tell what they know of Epstein's crimes. And we keep getting stonewalled by them every single time. I think that it's important to point out that the Department of Justice has not spoken to survivors. They have not reached out to us. They have not even entertained our requests to meet with them. Yet we're constantly giving a microphone and a platform to people who are potentially involved in these crimes. I think it's the wrong way to go. I think that we are seeing an overwhelming response from these people where it's just a continuation of deflection and denial. And I think that we need to move past all of that because survivors know what happened to us. And so when we're seeing these things play out in front of our eyes, we know what the truth is. And the Department of Justice's attempts to dissuade us from pursuing justice or from going forward with the haphazard release of these files, with the exposure of victims' names and identifying information, has really made us more earnest in our fight for justice. And we are not going to let this go until we know the truth. So I think that we have a long fight ahead of us.